Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? You really like that? Let's shut up and grind some tape. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another fine Tuesday evening. We do it every Tuesday, fresh out the truck, run down the stairs, turn the microphones on. The boys already got the cameras and everything set up. We give it to you hot off the pressers, and it was a pretty good one today. Normally the Tuesday presser, not necessarily a snoozer, but he's fresh off practice. Kirby's not really wanting to be there. Not necessarily not always wanting to be there, but I mean, he's got other things on his mind, right? He wants to get right to the practice tape, all that good stuff. I always go in there with a couple questions prepared. I wanted to know, hey, who's Malachi Starks reminds you of? Hey, talk to me a little bit about, what were my three questions prepared? Anyways, I had three questions prepared. One about Xavier Sorey. I wanted to know about that. Also wanted to know, hey, did you change your recruiting styles any because teams are passing the ball really, really quickly on you? He talked about that a little bit yesterday, how teams are throwing the ball in under 2.5 seconds on these guys. So they want to, get to the passer, but you got to get to the passer really, really quickly. So how do you impact the passer? Well, you get your hands up. So did you guys change any recruiting styles? I wanted to know that. Are you getting bigger? Are you getting taller? Are you getting longer? Are you changing some ideals about what you're doing based off how teams are playing you? We got some answers to that we're going to talk about today. But obviously, if you've been on Twitter today, or we put it up on TikTok and Instagram, and we're going to play it for you here in a second, he ended his presser with a pretty hot clip. And it's about something that, I've gotten to the point now where I've asked a lot of questions. I kind of know how to tee him up, if you will, to how to throw him a lob, if you will. So I know based off, the people that I talk to and based off talking to recruits and being a recruiting analyst like I have been for the last 4 years, I know what the deal is. I understand that schools, that recruit against Georgia, let's just have an example. Let's use two Big Ten teams, Michigan and Ohio State. I know that there are some schools like Michigan and Ohio State who come down here and are in different recruiting battles with the University of Georgia, particularly with defensive linemen, and they use the fact that Georgia's defensive linemen don't really get stats because they are a team-oriented pass rush. They don't let guys really get upfield. That's not what it's all about. It's about, containing the quarterback. It's about impacting the quarterback, which doesn't always mean getting the quarterback down. So I wanted to know. We talked to Michael yesterday. Hey, Michael, when you came here, did you know that you're coming here to be a part of a team-oriented pass rush? And he's like, absolutely. We know here it's not about me, it's about we. We're a group that gets after the quarterback together, right? It's a everyone eats kind of strategy here. He knew that. So I wanted to know, Kirby, when y'all get this on the trail, because I know you do, from other schools, how do you respond? And I think we got a pretty quick answer today.
Coach, when we talked to Michael yesterday, he mentioned how you guys are a team-oriented pass rushing unit. Is that something you guys ever have to fight against on the recruiting trail? Is it something other teams use as a tactic, like, hey, their guys don't get stats?
Well, we usually fix that when we show them how many we have drafted, and that it's silenced. Because we put Trevon Sachs up there and say he went number 1 overall. We put Devontae's up there and say he went in the first round. We put Quay's up there. We put Nolan's up there. We put Jordan Davis's, and then they don't say anything. See.
Some people listened to that and they were like, dang. You got Kirby a little teed up. No, we teed him up. We threw a nice lob for him. And he's right, man. Like, the counter recruiting tactics are kind of null and void. They don't really make a whole lot of sense, right? When you look at the draft success, it doesn't really matter what the stats are. And it happens every single draft, boys. We see it every single draft. One Georgia player gets drafted, and then that fan base goes running to stats and reference and college football reference, and they start checking up. Well, why did we just draft a guy who only has 4.5 sacks, number 1 overall? What are we doing? That kind of deal. And it's people who don't really watch. They don't really dive deep into what's going on at the places like the University of Georgia. He got asked the standard injury report questions. We got the standard injury report answers. Ladd is very much so day-to-day with a back injury. It sounds He said he didn't know the name for it. It was a big word. I'm no medical doctor. It sounds very nerve-ish, right? Where it's flared up, it's touch and go, it's day to day. That's what that is. If you've ever hurt your back, one day you kind of tweak it and then it hurts you, and it hurts you for however long it hurts you, and then it stops until the next time you tweak it. It sounds like there may be something like that going on right now with Ladd. Dejan, I'm not concerned about. He doesn't seem concerned about. That's going to be back and ready to go. Sounds like Smile was good to go this past weekend and is fine. So you're getting back to some full health as you get into the SEC slate starting next week, which is good. It's the primary focus for you guys this season, is to stay healthy and to stay consistent and not get snuck up on throughout the year. So that was kind of my immediate thoughts about the press conference. We're going to talk about his Malachi Starks comments when we talk about Malachi Starks here in a little bit with our film observations. I'm trying to think of anything else. I don't think there was anything pressing that came out of today's press conference. So with that, we will end hot off the press. Welcome into tonight's show. We got a loaded one for you. We're going to talk about two concepts of the day. We're going to talk a little bit about dime, and I got another special one for you as well. We're going to give you our film observations. Of course, it's Tuesday, so we're going to do Tuesdays with Terrence. You sent that link to my boy?
Just did.
All right, perfect there. So we're going to do Tuesdays with Terrence. We're going to have our boy Terence Edwards on tonight as well. We're going to play a little bit of a game called How Much? A little bit later. Love playing games around here. We're going to do a little bit of it. We're going to give them 3. We're going to talk about what we learned in week 1. I've had a really good opportunity to dive into the film, both obviously on the channel here on YouTube and, of course, over on patreon.com/Brooks Austin. We really looked at the defense today. We're going to talk about that. The latest Heisman odds have been updated after week 0 and week 1. I think they give us a little interesting tidbit on Georgia's starting quarterback in Carson Beck. And we will talk about just how special this defense can be this year, because honestly, I texted a lot of people last night after watching that film. I finally got it in, finally got the real film, the all 22, and I got to take a look at it, and it is flabbergasting. I mean, the team speed is something that is really, it pops off the film immediately. So we're going to talk about that tonight as well. And of course, we got to talk and show a little love to our friends over at Prize Picks. If you haven't already, sign up over today at prizepicks.com using promo code Brooks. You get a 100% deposit match, which means, of course, you put $50 in, they'll match it with another $50 up to $100. So a free $100 available today if you sign up using that promo code Brooks. Start tagging me in some tweets or sending me something on Instagram. Start letting me know, man. Like when y'all are putting in bets, or not necessarily bets, when you're putting in locks, let me know when you're hitting, because, good Lord, I know I could use some. You know, we talked about it a little bit last week. Our boy Jacob Campbell, I know he watches the show, but our videographer, dude, on fire, unconscious.
Feed the family, man. Let us know.
Yeah.
I about told him to start a Patreon. I'm like, bro, if you're really that hot, bro, be out here selling them things, because, hey, I mean, he's scorching. So if you're out here and you're on a heater. If you're on a heater over on Prize Picks, let me know and tag me so we can get you some love and everybody, we can feed fam. You know what I mean? The whole fam can eat if you're out here eating off Prize Picks. Promo code Brooks today. How we doing, gentlemen?
Fantastic, as always.
We're doing good. I think we're in a routine now that it's week 1's done, so we're getting in the flow of things.
Yeah, we're in a real groove here between the three of us. I even saw you. I mean, we're so matched up right now in the universe. I even saw you guys driving over here today as I was walking into Buttsmere.
Just synced up.
Yeah, it's only like half a mile from my house. So
right up in the Danger Ranger. That thing looked like it was struggling getting up that
Kirby's
hill.
right up
it's old, man. Leave it alone.
I ain't gonna lie to you. That thing was puttering up the top of that hill.
Don't worry about it.
That's funny, man. Man, it's a great time to be here on the channel. We've had some substantial growth. I want to take a quick moment to give you guys a thank you and ask you to continue that support, man. If you're not already subscribed, be sure to do so. We got a super sub in there I see from our boy Rudy's, comment about the man's calf master. A lot of love on the calves lately. That's weird. I guess we're finally getting full bod shots.
You got them concealed today, though.
Yeah, I got them concealed. We got pants on today.
You know, those Athens Hills will get those calves into shape real quick.
Yeah, they definitely will. Appreciate all the love for real on the channel. If you're not already, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. The views to thumbs up button ratio could be better. I'm not going to lie to you. All right, if I were to challenge you today, if I were to throw something out there today, I would tell you, I love that y'all watch. I would love you more if you hit that thumbs up button. So do that today. Hey, let's get into these film observations. I don't want to be quick. I want to be thorough here because this is what we do. If you haven't watched, we just did the offense on Monday, but we've done some more deep dive on the defense over on patreon.com/Brooks Austin. It costs you $5, and it's some of the best, most informative film work you'll watch on the internet. I promise you that right now. But they were extremely basic on Saturday. That was my first takeaway. As you would expect them to be, they are significantly more basic against significantly inferior teams. That's the MO. It's always been the MO. Someone hit us in the YouTube chat today saying against non-Power 5s or against unranked opponents, I think it was last year, Georgia averaged 400 yards of offense or something close to it. Against Power 5 and top 25 ranked opponents, they averaged like 550 yards of offense. So you do offensively kind of play to your competition. I don't want to speak to it that way, but that's kind of the way it seems. I saw a lot of mirrored concepts, not a lot, but I saw mirrored concepts on Saturday. What does that mean? Well, it means on this side, we're going to do the same thing that we do on this side out of an identical symmetrical formation. I got 2 receivers over here. I got 2 receivers over here. These 2 receivers are going to do this. These 2 receivers are going to do that. Okay, quarterback, pick which side you want to work. Those are your 2 options. Those 2 options now get dwindled down to 1 option based off what the defense does. So we're trying to make it real easy and real simple for everybody. That's how it look. And guess who is real simple and real easy for? The defense, okay, as well. So there were some times where UT Martin, especially early in that football game, Carson Beck gets picked off on a speed out. Well, that's what we're talking about. It was a mirrored concept, and there were really only 1 option. Okay, there's 2 sides of the field for him to work. He picks 1. So now we're down to 1 side of the field. Okay, defensive end drops in front of Oscar Delp. Now the 2 receiver side that he's working to is now immediately down to 1 option. There's nowhere for him to work other than to throw that ball as hard as he can and hope it doesn't get picked off. See what I'm saying? So it's real simplistic in the nature. I saw standard run games, okay? Very standard run games. A lot of split zone action. There was 1 truck sweep, but, I mean, a handful of counter plays, not a ton. That could be based off what the front they were getting from UT Martin. There's a lot of reasons that could be. But the main reason is they were basic. They are always very basic. I saw extremely standard defensive concepts as well when I turned the tape on today, which might be the MO all season, to be honest with you. They are so damn good in the back end that I think they might just play man-to-man defense all year because they can, okay? They might try to trick you and play some zone, but they're not going to do a ton of it. This offensive line eventually figured it out, but I would call that offensive line unit soft's the wrong word. I would say they lacked a physicality. They lacked an edge, all right? They looked like a football team that was just going out there and kind of rolling their helmets out for about 2 quarters until someone got in their butt. That's what it looked like, and that's fine. Anybody who's ever played that position knows that can be the case. You just hope it isn't against a team that can actually do it to you for 4 quarters, okay, because you can't afford a slow start because that provides confidence. But no matter how much confidence UT Martin got on Saturday, they weren't going to withstand a pissed off unit, and eventually they played ticked off, and you could see that. The footwork was sloppy to start. Folks were leaning at the waist, not bending at the knees and the ankles. Guys were losing their blocks after first engagement. All 3 of those things, sloppy footwork, leaning at the waist, not staying engaged on your block. And these are big guys, and this is a position I played, and this sounds like a dirty word when talking about football players, but this is the honor. It's lazy. That's all it was. It was just lazy. That's all it was. And it got corrected relatively quickly there midway through the second quarter, I would say. Midway through the second quarter, that offensive line started to move people and getting people, or staying in front of guys and staying latched onto guys that they were supposed to be latched onto. Xavier Sorey, okay, that was another standout point for us in the film when we looked at it this morning on Patreon. And not for the typical standard reasons we expect linebacker play at the University of Georgia. There were some very obvious miskeys, misreads, and misidentifications from 18 on Saturday. And I asked Kirby about it today because I wanted his thoughts. And I'll be honest, he was extremely forthcoming with his answer.
Coach, how'd you feel like Xavier Sorey played in his first real start and extended playing time?
Did some good things. He had a couple of mental errors. I think the anxiety of playing in that game and starting. He's played in games, but he's played more as a sub rusher. So to play stacked inside backer and sub rusher, which we ask our guys to do, was a daunting task for him for a first time and first game. But played hard. He missed a couple run keys, and he missed a couple walkaways, we call them, where you have to walk out of the box. But pleased with Sorey's development, and he's been very coachable.
You hear him talking about some anxiety there to start the football game, right? And you also hear him being very, very honest about some misreads, some misidentifications. To me, it was a little bit jumpy, right? It was a little bit. It was hesitant at the tackle point, okay, which is a football player that hasn't played a lot of football. And there were some. I mean, I didn't notice the missed walkouts where that's critical errors, where he's supposed to extend out of the box as the big Willie, as we call him on this channel, and he's not doing so. If you've ever heard Kirby Smart talk about defensive football, it's like gap assignment and alignment is like the Bible. It is spiritual at that university. So to hear a linebacker getting playing time that's not aligning correctly, I mean, you saw it on film. I know C.J. Allen has earned the right to do this, but the third series of the game, he's in. You know what I mean? It's like the 9th defensive snap. 33's on the field. So somebody that they've had an opportunity to get him up to speed all spring and all fall camp. And I saw this in a very similar player in Quay, who Quay was never, there was not as much hesitancy, but there was some misidentification. And you got to understand about Xavier, and this is a football player that was an outside linebacker, like a true outside linebacker, old school outside linebacker, stood over number 2 in high school, stood over number 3 in high school. He was outside of the box. And then when he got to IMG, they kind of edged him. They kind of stood him up and let him rush the passer and kind of work off tackle and do all that stuff. And then he gets to Georgia. Now you got to stand with your hands on your knees, and you got to read guards, and you got to read the defensive lineman in front of you, and you got to fill gaps, and you got to fill holes, and you got to scrape with your shoulder square, and you got to turn your hips with keeping your shoulder square and your eyes right. And we got to play coverage, and it's a whole different type of football game. Whole different type of football game. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a lot of game reps for 18, and it's getting there. It's definitely better than what it looked like even during G-Day. It's getting there, but you can see it. You can see it. A couple of the runs that busted Saturday were because 18 just jumped inside a little bit too much or jumped outside a little bit too much. Offensively, they were bunchy. Okay, if you watched our film study Monday, they were bunchy. All right, I learned a lot about offense from Todd Monken in just the 3 or 4 or 5 times we got to talk to him as a media outlet, you know, during his time at the University of Georgia. And I don't know how it got brought up, but we asked him what you basically do without an X receiver, and his answer was we bunch. We bunch up, and we have to because we don't have a true X. And it brings us to our concept of the day. Let's go talk about it. It's just easier to show you guys these things than it is to talk about these things. Whoop-bang! So here we go. Let's just draw it up. Let's draw it up in a nice 3x1 set, okay? If we have a true X receiver, okay? If we have a true X receiver, we're going to draw it up with a slide outside for some random reason. If we have a true X receiver, we can put him outside by himself, okay? And we never have to fear any of these guys, right, having corners walk up and play press man coverage. All right, we don't have to worry about slot corners walking up and safeties walking up and corners walking up, right? And getting in the face of our receivers if these guys can win. All right, if these guys can win their one-on-ones in man coverage, we never have to worry about that, ever. Because they're going to win their opportunities. We're going to be able to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands relatively quickly. But what happens, say if you're Clemson, right? Or say if you're Georgia the last couple of years when, you know, George Pickens is hurt, A.D. Mitchell is hurt, Ra Thomas is not quite ready to play at Georgia yet, Dylan Bell's still, you know, blossoming, if you will. Marcus Jack Saint's not available the first game of the football season. Well, if these guys can't win, well, what we have to do now is we have to bunch them up, okay? Because we have to get teams out of man coverage, right? And the only way to do that is to take our guys and kind of bunch them up, right, to get them in here. So now when we're in here with all these bunches, teams can't walk up and press man, right? We can't walk up and do this because as soon as we do that, teams are going to crisscross us all over the place, and we're not going to be able to exchange all of these people. So what do we have to do as a defense? As a defense, we have to in, out, or bracket, right? Or banjo. Heck yeah, I see you over there playing that sucker. I see you, right? We have to banjo. We'll take a linebacker, All right, we'll take a linebacker or a nickel corner. We'll take a safety, and we'll take an actual corner, and we'll play bracket coverage. You take out, you take in, you take over the top, right? Bracket coverage. That's what we'll have to play if you are bunched up like this. This is how teams get out of facing man coverage, because we don't have guys that can beat man coverage, right? This is what happened to Clemson last night. Duke suffocated them. They played man coverage against a team in Clemson who has 0 weapons. So you have a quarterback that's back there holding the ball because can't nobody get open. When that happens, you have to bunch. So when you see Georgia, and I say, hey, Georgia got real bunchy on Saturday, what does that tell you? Well, that tells you right now they don't have a true winner outside. That's ready, right? They have Brock Bowers. They have these guys that can win, but without Ladd McConkey, without Marcus Rosemy-Jack-Saint, again, Dylan Bell's still blossoming. Ra Thomas still getting comfortable. You don't have winners on the outside right now today, but you might later in the year. And when we start seeing Georgia spread, right, when we start seeing Georgia spread out, you know what that'll tell us? They like their options. You know who you don't see in a lot of trips bunch? Ohio State.
Nope.
Ohio State's 3 wide, 2 by 2. They spread the whole time, right? Why? Because they got guys that can win. They know they got guys that can win, so they don't have to worry about none of that stuff, bunching up, avoiding press man coverage. I thought Clemson did a terrible job of getting out of 2 by 2. They were playing base duos, which is what Lincoln Riley's system is, which is what Garrett Riley's system is. They refused to get out of it last night. They didn't bunch. They didn't do the stuff required to avoid putting our teams in situations where we can't win. Which, to spin back to Georgia, if you're talking about Bobo, hey, he did some stuff Saturday that is reflective of his current roster. We've talked about on this channel all the time. You want to know what good coordinating looks like, take your ingredients, bake me the best cake. That's what it is. That's all it is. It's not we do what we do. That's not good coordinating. That's bad coordinating. It's the opposite of good coordinating, right? Good coordinating is taking what you got and making the best out of it. Hey, make sure you're hitting that thumbs up. We appreciate you guys. Boys, I feel like I've been talking forever, so let's get right into Give Them Three. What's up?
Terrence Edwards is in here now.
Oh, what's up, T? Let's get him loaded up and let's get some fired up questions to my boy Terrence. Let me know when he's ready to go.
Right now.
He's already on the screen?
Right there.
Terrence, how we doing, buddy?
Man, I'm great. How about yourself?
Man, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't prepare myself for the stamina of the amount of content that I am producing this year. I can feel it already. I'm known for my juice. I'm starting to fade a little bit, so I'm glad you are here today to help me with some assistance. Hey, overall first impressions week 1. I know you had some thoughts on Twitter. What did you think about the offense, particularly when you watched them on Saturday?
No, if you read my tweets, it goes to the offensive line. I don't think inside zone or any kind of gap scheme. I don't think they played very well. We ran the ball very well if we did any kind of outside zone or toss. I thought pass protection was pretty good, but just the perimeter, inside blocking, moving people around, we did not do very well.
No, we talked about it on the film review, particularly even Kirby talked about it. They just didn't show up in that first, I would say, 3 or 4 drives. You go 3 and out. But we also talked about it to open the show, Terrence. I don't think they were super complex in their run scheme. I think we saw 1 truck sweep. We saw 3 or 4 counters, but it was pretty much split zone. They ran a lot of traditional zone looks. And that's kind of hard on offensive linemen to just say, hey, today, all we're going to do is blow these guys off the ball, snap in and snap out. Even if you are a team that could potentially win the Joe Moore Award. Did anybody at receiver stick out to you on Saturday, Terrence?
Oh, most definitely. I know I spoke about Mekhi Muse on Dawg Nation last week, and I told everyone that he would be a big part of this offense. He's not a G-Day hero. I've been to practice several times and seen the young man just make plays against the number 1 defense in the country. So I knew that he was going to be a big part of the offense. I think he should continue to be the punt returner. I don't want Ladd back there with his injury and how important he is to the offense. I think Mekhi can really handle that. I thought Dom, there were some plays that I expect Dom Lovett to make that he didn't, but then he He made one spectacular catch. I would love to see Rara get more opportunities, and I understand his struggles with the playbook right now, but he's too talented not to be on the field. Then we just missed a lot of guys. We missed Marcus Juice. I think we really missed Marcus Juice out there, special teams wise, and what he does in a blocking game. So we had a lot of key players out for that game. And I said on Twitter, it was like a preseason game for us. And we could go back and have a lot of teaching tape moving forward.
A preseason game is a great way to put that. No, I think you hit the nail on the head right there with Marcus Jack Saint, in the sense that is a physical, energetic football player, right? And he's a dependable football player. If you were to track his career catches, Terrence, all the ones that pop out in my mind, they're like really tough, contested 3rd and 8 digs. Like he's running across the middle of the field. He's got to make a diving catch. It ended up being one of the favorable routes that Stetson had in his playbook. It was like, hey, 3rd and 8, you're going to get some type of crosser or some type of runner across the middle of the field. And that's a tough grab to make and a physical play. And just in terms of a blocker, they run a lot of screen game. They do a lot of stuff on the edge. He's going to play a major role this year, particularly with a guy like Darnell Washington out, because that was one of their guys. But I know he got a lot of credit for his box play, did Darnell, in terms of being able to block defensive ends. But, dude, they arc-released that guy into space a ton last year. Did they not, Terrence? And having a guy like Marcus Jack Saint will kind of not necessarily revamp your screen game out there, but it'll certainly help, won't it?
Oh, most definitely. He's a very physical 200 and probably 5-pound receiver.
Yeah.
He is someone that's very dependable. I just think about the catch over the middle. That was a very, very good 2-ball from Stetson against Tennessee where he scored a touchdown. And like you said, he's very dependable going across the middle, catching digs and over routes. And the quarterback understand if I just put it there, he's not afraid to go catch it. He's not afraid to go over the middle and catch tough catches. So that is a quarterback kind of blanket that he knows if I put it in his area, he's going to catch it. But he's the juice. He's the juice. He's probably not he's not the leading receiver, but he's the juice of the receiving core.
And I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that during that 2.5, 3 year span that Marcus Jack Saint was sitting behind the likes of George Pickens and Adonai Mitchell, guess who he was on scout team throwing with? Carson Beck. Like they built a massive rapport. They came into school together at the University of Georgia. They've been throwing in off-season workouts for years now. So having that guy back on the field this weekend, you would imagine it provides some type of sense of security out there on that offense. Other than the 2-minute run drill or running the ball at 2 minutes with no timeouts, Terrence, did you have any critical thoughts of the offense on Saturday with what you saw?
I did, and I tweeted that. I think the only play call that I questioned was the running the ball with no timeouts going into half. I just didn't understand that. I've seen people on Twitter say Carson checked that. I just don't think Carson is his football IQ is smarter than that to check into a run play with 17, 18 seconds left to go on the clock. So I think that wasn't a great play call. But other than that, I thought Bobo put the ball in a lot of people's hands just to see what they could do. Macabre guys. C.J. Smith. Let's give C.J. Smith some love. I know he was hurt a lot last year, and he got an opportunity to show that blazing speed and his toughness. He caught that one slant. The guy hit him, and he just short that off and got more. So he was a guy that popped, and we all know what type of downfield speed that he has. So other than that, I mean, it was very vanilla. It was like a preseason game. We just go out there and not put a lot on film. And I know we have South Carolina coming up in 2 weeks. We got Ball State this week, and we can treat this like the second preseason game. Just to get all the kinks out, get what we do well. I think that's what preseason is. What do you do well? And I think Bobo is going to find out what he can and can't do, what Carson loves, what he doesn't love, and what he likes in the passing game. His checks, can he handle the checks that he's able to give? So, we talked about the favorable schedule, but it's going to help us in the development of some of the younger guys.
Yeah, you mentioned somebody on Twitter talking about Carson checking to a run play. We asked him about it after the game, and he basically said, I run what's called in that situation. Like there's no ability to check at the line of scrimmage when the clock is running, or because it was running at that point because they got a first down. They had no timeouts. The clock stopped, and then the sticks got set, and then the clock starts running, and then they run the ball. They have no opportunity to sit there and go, hey, Georgia, 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 or whatever the call is. There was no check there at the line of scrimmage from him. In fact, he had no option to check. It was the exact opposite of that. Those are non-negotiables at that moment. It's get the play in and run it. People upset about offensive coordinating and play design and how quote-unquote basic they were. Terrence, if I told you they had to dump the clip in terms of their play design to score 48 points on Saturday, you would be far more concerned, would you not?
Most definitely. I think if you can't go up and just line up and play football against UT Martin, and nothing against them, but we're just far superior as a program. And I know they do very well in the OVC, if I'm not mistaken, what conference they're in, but they do very well in their conference. But if you just can't line up and go play football, happen to be very creative in your play calls, then something is wrong. I mean, that's a good point. I'd be more concerned about where we're at. Are we, they're able to three-peat offensively? But if you just can line up and go score 41 points, I know we scored 48 with good defense at 7, but if you just can line up and just beat someone without being very creative, then you have a good football team. You have good players. So I'm with you on that. If we have to be very creative and a lot of motions, a lot of shift, a lot of stacked formations, then I don't think we'll be able to three-peat.
Yeah, if you're out there throwing flea flickers against UT Martin, you might have a problem.
Right.
You know what I mean? Hey, what were your overall thoughts on the quarterback play Saturday?
I thought they played well given the circumstance. All three got an opportunity to play. Carson Beck is probably a little bit more athletic than I think people give him credit for. We all understand what type of arm he possessed. He never looked flustered. He never looked rushed. He looked in command. I do have to get an offensive line some credit because I never saw him pressured. So he got a clean pocket to throw. Aaron, he threw one over Aaron. So I watched your breakdown of that play, and you're absolutely right. I can't see the back end, so I don't know whose fault was that. I don't know if Aaron's supposed to take it across. I don't know what his landmark was on that play. But we saw the arm talent that gets the ball out. And if you overthrow Arian Smith, then you have a live arm. I thought the other two quarterbacks played very well given the limited reps, but I thought Carson played well.
I think the number one mistake people make is to take, particularly with the backups, to take that 5 or 6 rep sample and to overreact, good or bad. Like you're going out there and you're in the middle. You're coming off the bench and you're just running around like a chicken with your head cut off most of the time as a backup out there. So to have great success, that's awesome. But you can't have an overreaction on that, can you, Terrence? Because it's such a limited sample size.
Oh, most definitely. You could you and I can look at things a little different. We can, like, just for Brock Vandagriff, you could go and just look at his mechanics, his footwork, his ball placement. That touchdown to Oscar, I always tell my receivers, if the ball is not accurate, make him right. And Oscar made Brock Vandagriff right on that play by making an outstanding catch and getting to the end zone. Brock could have made that throw a little bit easier for Oscar. So some of those things you look at, is he under control? Is he in control of the offense? And those are things to look at. I'm not going to look at what he did in that limited snap. I'm just looking at a lot of different things than a lot of people.
Yeah, he pulled the string on that ball to Oscar. Oscar's running down the field wide ass open, and he just kind of nosed down on him, put that one on his shoelaces. You're right. It was a great catch by Oscar to turn around and Pinky's down, right, Terrence? Have a good job getting down underneath the nose of that football and catching that ball. Terrence, y'all got Roswell this week, right?
Right.
A big football game. What are your thoughts, man? Tell me.
It's a big football game. We'll be on TV on Peachtree TV at 8 o'clock. This is a Georgia-Florida. This is a Texas-Oklahoma rivalry, and this dates back a long time before I got to Milton. I didn't understand the rivalry until last year. I didn't even know that this was as big as it is. And we're Roswell is flying high right now. They're averaging about 50 points right now. So we got our work cut out for us. So it's going to be a tremendous game. We'll get an opponent that's, I think, ranked number 2 in 6A.
Yeah.
The community is ready. Both communities going to be flying high, and the motion is going to be high. And we're ready. We're ready to showcase what we have over at Milton, and so is Roswell. They're going to showcase why they're ranked so high and been scoring points on everyone. So it's going to be a good game. I advise everyone to tune in and watch the Milton Eagles versus the Roswell Hornets.
Well, there he is, the all-time leading receiver at the University of Georgia, our guy Terrence Edwards, here every Tuesday on the Film Guy Network. Terrence, I appreciate you for being here, my man.
Hey, thanks. Look forward to next Tuesday.
No doubt. We'll see you. Hey, man, that guy is literally goated. You know what I mean?
Literally.
He's literally
literally.
goated. Always great to have Terrence on the show, man. I hope you guys fire off some thumbs up and some chats for that right there, man. That is a big football game, Roswell and Milton.
Oh, yeah.
It's not an open date, but originally I really thought Villarica was going to be good this year in high school football. Okay, so originally I was scheduled to Friday night Mike Julian Lewis twice this year. I was going to see him against Villarica and then go back and see him against Westlake. So we're going to see Westlake twice this year. Spoiler alert. But I know Julian's going to dub up Villarica by like 50.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm not going. We're not going that one. Breaking news here on the channel. So here's what I want the chat, and I want you guys to help me decide, and I want the commenters to help me decide. Lee County plays at Colquitt this weekend, okay, Friday night. It's probably as big as South Georgia football gets, particularly this year, okay? Coach Fabrizio, our coach, Coach Sean, what's Coach Sean's last name?
Calhoun.
Look at you, Coach Sean Calhoun out there at Colquitt County. Just 2 powerhouse football programs. A lot of Power 5 football players on the field. Only problem with that, there's a nooner Saturday in Athens, and I'm like 4.5 hours from Colquitt. So that's like no sleep, which is not, it's just fine. Okay, it's not a problem. We'll make it happen if you guys want it to happen. Or should we go to that Roswell-Milton game?
I don't know. TE hyped it up, man.
Roswell-Milton is a good rivalry.
But you don't know nothing about that South Georgia football.
I know a little bit about. I know more about Roswell-Milton than I do Colquitt. I mean, I obviously know Colquitt just because everything that happened with them in the past. But Roswell-Milton, I can tell you for a fact, is a good rivalry.
Sounds like the juice will be there for that game too, so that might make some good content. But it sounds like you can't go wrong with either. It just depends on.
Well, all right. So let's throw this into the equation. The only Georgia commit, Nycar, Colquitt County.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's the Landon Thomas tie to Florida State. There's a dozen Power 5 football players.
Nycar's been going off, too, this year.
Nycar's been going absolutely off.
Yes.
He plays a position where we can really highlight him, too, on Friday Nights Mike.
That's tough.
That's really tough. And not that I don't respect the coaches at Milton and Roswell, because they're tremendously coached. But, man, there's something about that South Georgia football. I love me some Fabrizio, and I definitely love me some Sean Calhoun. Y'all let us know. It looks like right now it's tied up in the live chat. I got 2 for Lee County. I got somebody telling me Lee County, no doubt, and our boy Ducati, who never light hands anything, just tells me to take a nap. So I ain't taken a nap since before my kids were born. I don't even know when was the last time I took a nap.
Throw a poll up on Twitter and see what they say.
That's a great point. We'll throw a poll up on Twitter. You got access to my Twitter over there. Put that up. All right, now we'll figure out what people think over on Twitter. All right, let's give them 3, shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's give them 3. All right, these are 3 things that we learned about the University of Georgia this weekend. Just showed you rule number 1: if you're bunching, you don't have a dude. Y'all still waiting on an X. I don't know who it's going to be. Actually, I know who it's going to be. It's going to be Ra Thomas. Y'all still waiting on an X. And until y'all get one, y'all are going to continue to see some bunched offense, and that's okay. All right, as long as you're doing it, as long as you're not trying to do what Clemson did last night, like we talked about, trying to survive against teams you can't beat in man-to-man coverage. That's number 1. Number 2, I learned this defense could be absolutely tremendous. I mean, like scary good. Okay, I texted somebody last night. I said, am I tripping or is this 2021 all over again? And I didn't get a yes or no. All I got back was, well, we're mostly sophomores this year. Is right. Yeah. They're young. They're really good. And they probably have two of the best defensive players in all of college football in Malachi Starks and Mykel Williams. That was my last takeaway. Malachi Starks and Mykel Williams will finish their careers in the conversation of best of insert position ever at the University of Georgia. They will, okay? Mykel flashes on every rep. And I thought it was interesting to hear Kirby talk about it today. What flashed the most last night when I turned on the tape was his effort. That dude plays so damn hard, so hard for a football player that's that talented. Like, defensive linemen are known for taking plays off. The dude doesn't. Okay, there's no hesitation. There's just, he plays like his hair's on fire for every snap that he's out there. And guess what? He's playing a lot of them now. They let him eat. They leave him out there now. They're not one rep. They're not series touch and go down. They are letting him play extended reps. He was one of the last starters to get subbed out on Saturday on that front. Okay, so they're going to let that guy eat. And then in terms of Malachi, he will be the best safety ever at the University of Georgia. And I put it out on Twitter today. It's the one position at the University of Georgia where, like, it's not crazy elite. Now, that sounds really, really defamatory. It really does. But there's not multiple first-rounders at the safety position at the University of Georgia. We got a bunch of names today, and I'm going to leave off the old head. So I forgot his name. Jake Scott. Jake Scott was a popular name. We got that one over and over again today.
It's the 60s.
Yeah, it's a 60s name. Bakari Rambo, Greg Blue, Thomas Davis, Sean Jones got a shout today. I gave Richard LeCount. I had to give Richard LeCount a shout-out today. You guys got no love for number 2. Don't understand that one. J.R. Reed was up for more awards than Richard LeCount. He got a shout today. And, of course, Lewis Seen's the highest drafted safety at the University of Georgia. We already mentioned Thomas Davis. When I had this discussion, who comes to mind? Who is the best safety at the University of Georgia?
I mean, Bakari Rambo is the first one that comes to my mind.
Yep.
But I think that when Malachi Starks leaves the University of Georgia, he's probably going to be the guy that everybody mentions.
It's very weird also because there's such a wide range, I feel like. Like, I feel like you could say, Dominic Sanders was the best ball hawk Georgia's had, but I wouldn't trust him in coverage or against the run. Then you've got guys like Greg Blue who are absolute punishers of guys over the middle, but would they be the same in a modern college football offense? So it's very interesting to think about who is the best. I mean, even 10 years ago with guys like Bakari Rambo and stuff, they were kind of do-it-all guys, but I don't know if they were necessarily better than Malachi Starks were.
It was interesting. One of the ones, I watched him last night, and I had to ask. I watched Malachi, and we tweeted a video of him today. It's a noticeable difference. He is very clearly and obviously the best player on the field, him and Mykel. It's so obvious. And then there's JDJ, and then there's Bullard. Those two pop, okay? But, man, I had to ask, who does this guy remind you of? Because he's coached just about every great safety in the history. Do we have the clip of Kirby talking about who he would compare Malachi to? Play this for the audience.
Coach, you coached a lot of good safeties. Who does Malachi Starks most remind you of?
Well, I've been around some thumpers, and I think of all the guys, the Mark Barons and the Auckland Dix and Dom Sanders here, and Lewis, Chris and Richard. And he's really different than all those guys. He's probably the one guy that if you had to, they could go out there and play corner if you had to. I mean, he's got a coverage skill set and speed skill set that most safeties don't have. He's a good tackler. Maybe not as physical as those guys in terms of knockback tackles, but he's a good tackler. And he's got good range, very intelligent.
Coach, after the game, you said that.
You hear him talking about his coverage ability. It sticks out like a sore thumb. It's part of the reason why you hear him get asked about dime the other day. I think we talked about this last night. He kind of made fun of somebody for asking about, hey, you played 3 safeties out there, and he kind of giggled and said, that's dime. It's called dime. It's a different dime than they've ever played. Normally they play dime with 2 safeties. It's why it got that media person. Okay, normally in the years past, they've played both stars at the same time when they play dime, right? Mark Webb and Tyreek Stevenson, okay? Javon Bullard and Tyke Smith last year. That's what they normally do. But you know what they've done now? Because Malachi Starks' coverage ability is so damn good, they put Dan Jackson back there, they put Javon Bullard back there, and they put Malachi in the slot, and they let him cover whoever dares to come out there. Because he straps. He absolutely straps, particularly tight ends. He is the tight end stopper. I can't wait for whatever team that has a tight end not named Brock Bowers to come out and be like, oh, maybe this is the key. No, locks, absolutely locks and clamps, and that's what they're doing with him. They are not changing up defense. To me, the comparison's Minka. It's been the comparison, or Eric Berry. Maybe not as a thumper, and he mentioned the word thumper in there. Maybe not as much of a thumper as Eric Berry, but yeah, the comparison to me is Minka, because Minka could do all that stuff. Minka could go down, cover tight ends if he wants. Minka could play in the box if he wants. Minka could play center field if he wants. Minka could play whatever if he wants. That's the same way Malachi is to me. And by the way, I screenshotted to you guys his track stuff.
Yeah.
How absurd is that?
Absolutely ridiculous.
I remember this in high school, but looking at him today, it blew my ever-loving mind. Listen to this. He long jumped 24 foot 9 inches.
Good God.
Holy.
He long jumped almost 8 meters. He triple jumped almost 44 feet. 43 feet 11 inches. That's almost 13 and a half meters. He ran a 10.55 in the 100. Okay, it's not a 10.2, but it's a 10.55 at like 205 pounds. And his 200 meter was 21.67. He could probably qualify for the what's that where the decathlete? Decathlon? I bet he could do something like that.
Probably.
Like, I mean, he could probably qualify for that tomorrow. If I teach him how to throw a javelin, done.
You know how to throw a javelin?
I mean, it can't be that hard. He's an athlete. I could teach him how to play cover 4.
I was about to say, Malachi Starks is definitely the friend that no matter what it was,
Great
he
at
could
it.
pick it up, and he's
Oh,
great.
he's
He was the best
great at it.
person
Those
at
guys
it,
are
no matter
so
what.
annoying.
I bet he'd
bro.
skunk your ass in Frisbee golf right now.
Probably.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, just a stud, an ever-loving stud. I can't believe it. We got way too many topics on this here list right here, but let's keep rattling them off. I want to talk about this. I know we didn't get y'all's 3. Let's give myself 3. I give him 3. But we got like 5 minutes before we got to get to NBR, and we got a loaded NBR show. I want to talk about this right here because we're going to hit it again in NBR. You guys have seen it, but has the audience seen the latest Heisman odds? If you haven't, you should go check them. It's absolutely piss littered with quarterbacks. Listen to this. Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Jordan Travis, J.J. McCarthy, Quentin Ewers, Sam Hartman, Bo Nix, Drake May, Joe Milton, Jalen Milroe, Riley Leonard. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 quarterbacks right now that have higher Heisman odds than Carson Beck. Now, that doesn't mean anything about the discussion we're about to have, but what it drew to my mind is all of those names. Do you know what all of those names have in common? Every single one of those football players is draft eligible this year. Mm-hmm. Right now. All of them. Every single one of them could enter this draft. So as we sit here in September, after watching Carson Beck throw for 295 yards or whatever it was, and possessing NFL traits, and wanting to be, or y'all wanting him to be, and Georgia kind of needing him to be for the quarterback's sake, or quarterback room's sake, to be a one-year starter, one and done kind of deal. For that to be the case, listing those names, I can promise you right now, of those names, Carson Beck will not be drafted over Caleb Williams, no matter what happens the rest of the year. He will not be drafted over Caleb Williams. He will not be drafted over Drake May. I watched that J.J. McCarthy tape. I was totally freaking wrong on that guy. He will not be drafted ahead of J.J. McCarthy, and he probably won't be drafted ahead of Riley Leonard, considering what we know about the sample size and the NFL love for that guy right now. So right now, today, he goes, throws for 4,000 yards. He might be the 5th overall quarterback drafted, and that might be good enough for him to leave. But it's a stacked quarterback class, guys. It's a really loaded quarterback class. So as we see here in September, you're going to have to see some type of Joe Burrow-esque like run for him to be a first-round draft pick. Are you not?
I mean, yeah, it's going to have to be. I wouldn't say it has to be the style of Mac Jones, but that's kind of what it has to feel like. You know, Mac Jones is one of those guys that only played 1 year and he lit it up. But that was also due to the fact that he had a loaded wide receiver room alongside of him and he had all the weapons in the world for him to be really successful. So it's going to have to be a special year for him to garner enough attention to where he is sliding up in that top 20 range or whatever.
I think it is, but I think this is kind of just what you're going to deal with until the COVID classes are done. Because you've got so many super senior quarterbacks.
That's a brilliant point.
With the fact that you have the transfer portal also going on, I mean, you've got a bunch of guys staying their 5th and 6th years. You're going to have an inflated quarterback. And we saw it last year. That was the whole reason the Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young thing. It was all the quarterback position has gotten kind of overvalued at that point. So I think you are going to see a lot of second-round goes. I mean, if Carson Beck goes in the 2nd round, he's the 2nd highest Georgia quarterback drafted ever, right?
That's
Behind,
wild.
yeah. So even if he does
wild.
that, so it's not like getting like, oh, I only have a 2nd round eval, maybe 3rd. I'm not going to go. I'll stay another year and risk injury or risk playing bad. So I think he could benefit staying another year, but I don't think he'll stay.
I'm with you. From an NFL draft perspective, you mentioned Mac Jones. We've talked about this on this channel, and it's kind of the inklings are coming out. The NFL and multiple scouts are now feeding this out because I'm not the only one that has said it. I've heard it on an ESPN radio station the other day, so people are talking. I think the NFL is going to stop drafting 1-year starters.
Yeah.
At least this high. I think they are. And it's because of Mac Jones, honestly. It's because of Trey Lance, honestly.
Mitch Trubisky.
It's because of Mitch Trubisky, honestly. And he trains with this guy. But if Anthony Richardson doesn't have a great first year, it's really going to scare the piss out of everybody. Anthony Richardson has a 1-year starting role, okay? And he's got all the traits in the world. So if that flames out, like, it's not going to make people feel comfortable about the guy coming from Georgia who is, and I'm putting air quotes on this if you're listening to me on the podcast, is surrounded by great talent. How can we evaluate someone who has such a small sample size around such great talent? Well, my answer to you is to do your job as a scout. Evaluate. Be bold. Hey, speaking of being bold, we got nothing but rants coming up, and I'm telling you right now, it's loaded. All right, so we'll see you in about 5 minutes.